Hello, my friend. Thank you again for joining me at Answers About Alzheimer's, where we talk about every different kind of dementia, not just Alzheimer's disease. But if you're brand new and you've never been here before, I want to welcome you. Please check out all of my other videos. I have so many great things that I can help you with. I go live on TikTok very often, almost daily, to answer live questions. I have a #1 best-selling caregiving book called Forget Me Not. I'm also have a great Facebook group called Answers About Aging and Alzheimer's. If you're interested in Facebook, Instagram, you name it, I'm pretty sure you can find me just about anywhere. So today I'm going to talk about some very sad yet not very talked about topic that needs a lot more of attention. The reason I talk about this is because this is something that's very personal to me. It happened in my own family, and I firmly believe that if this could happen to me, that it could happen to anyone. And I'm all about prevention. So this topic. Well, before I get into the topic, I want you to know, if you're watching this right before the holidays, before Thanksgiving and Christmas, I have some really excellent holiday webinars for you. They're designed to give you some really great tips and strategies on how to cope with the holidays, how to include your person with dementia with the holidays, but still have a stress-free, wonderful family gathering, free of stress and full of joy. And I know you're like, what? But yes, it is true. I'm going to give you some amazing tips and strategies to get through the holidays and how to include your person with dementia, or maybe not to include them, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So you would go to my website, answersaboutalz.org. There's always links below, and go to the events tab to see what webinars we currently have going and what other offers we have that you can take to get more educated and make your life smooth as silk. So today I want to talk about, the stress of being a caregiver. And I don't know. I'm just afraid so many people will turn me off if I say these words. But I want to talk a little bit first about some facts from the Alzheimer's Association 2020 fact sheet. I know there's more recent ones, but the one that I just happened to have referenced very quickly was from 2020. So these numbers are probably a lot bigger, actually, than what I'm going to tell you. But approximately 75% of caregivers who are caring for a person with Alzheimer's or any type of dementia are concerned about managing and taking care of their own health. So caregivers tend to put their own health aside while they're caring for a person with dementia. And we've got to curb that, because if something happens to you, who's going to be there to take care of them? So we have to find ways to make sure that we're putting our health as a priority. Promise me. Put in the chat, I'm a priority. Put it in the chat, I'm a priority. Approximately 60% of caregivers rate their stress as high or very high. 60%. That's a lot. More than half rate their caregiving stress level as high or very high. I can help with that. If you decide to spend 4 days with me, I can reduce your stress level by 80 to 90%. In fact, all of my students say it's more like 95, but low expectations, then you'll be happy. Anyway, low expectations, never, ever. Very high expectations when you work with me. Approximately 40% of caregivers who care for a person with Alzheimer's or another dementia suffer from depression. 40% suffer from depression. Ooh, these numbers are scary. And 47% of people with dementia will be abused, either physically or psychologically abused. 47%. So let's just round it to half, okay? So approximately half of people with dementia will be psychologically or physically abused. That number is embarrassing. It's exponentially high. It's ridiculous. And 20% of people who were surveyed fear that they would become physically violent or aggressive with the person that they care for. 20% of caregivers admit that they are fearful that they could become violent with the person that they're caring for. Now, I want you to keep in mind, 20%, those are only the people who were honest on the survey. So again, that number is much higher, much, much higher. So one of the reasons that I talk so passionately about this topic is because this happened to my family. My mother was psychologically, physically, emotionally, financially abused. And I did not know about it until after she passed away. And I'm going to tell you, there are ways to pick up on these subtle things that are happening. There are ways. So after her killing, I decided I became pretty much an expert in elder abuse. I was already an expert in Alzheimer's and dementia. So I piggybacked and I added elder abuse on top of that. And the things that I discovered and found were just horrible. But so the different types of abuse is physical, sexual, emotional abuse, active neglect, passive neglect, self-neglect, and financial abuse. Now, studies show that in most cases, more than one type of abuse is occurring at the same time. In my particular case, it was physical abuse, emotional abuse, active neglect, and financial abuse. Four. So the risk factors for abuse is if you're female, if you're isolated. I don't know too many people with dementia who are not isolated, even if they're living with family members. They're still usually pretty isolated. If they have cognitive decline, if they've lost a spouse or a main caregiver, lack of caregiver knowledge, and this is where I can come in and help you immensely with your lack of caregiver knowledge, dissatisfaction of being in a caregiving role, which a lot of people are very dissatisfied being in this role. Some of them feel like this is their duty. They didn't have a choice. If there's a family history of violence and unemployment of the caregiver. So those are all some risk factors, and there's others. There's other risk factors, but I want to talk to you a little bit now about bruising, because bruising can really open your eyes to maybe what's going on, and maybe it wasn't something that you really thought of before. So people in general, but also including those with dementia, when they get an accidental bruise, they don't know how they got that bruise. It's not a big deal. They've got a bruise. They don't know how they got it. It's accidental. However, if they have been physically abused, more than half of these bruises are 2 inches or larger. So if you see a bruise that is 2 inches in diameter or larger, that is quite a big warning flag. 90% of accidental bruises are on the extremities, which are our arms and our legs. So 90% of accidental bruises are on the arms and legs. 90% of adults know the cause of a bruise, and this includes people with dementia, if they were abused. So 90% of people who are abused know where that bruise came from. 90%. And this includes people who are cognitively declined. Okay. And that's because a person with dementia, if they are abused, this gets burned into their long-term memory and not so much the short-term memory. And while they may not know the details, they will know some specifics. All right. They might not know why they don't like this person, but they know that they're not a kind person. They may not know what season it was, what day of the week, if it was day or night. In my mother's case, she didn't know if it was morning or night, but she knew it was dark outside. She knew exactly that it was my sister-in-law, Cindy, but she didn't know which house it happened in the first house or the second house. And she knew exactly what had happened to her. So they may not know the details, but they will remember that this was a violent attack. I want to talk to you about the statistics. I can't talk today. The statistics about who are the people who are abusing, because this is going to really surprise you. 70 to 80% of abusers are family members, which was the case in my case as well. 70 to 80% are family members. 2/3 of those are the adult children. So most of the abuse is happening at the hands of our sons and our daughters. Only 16% is family and neighbors. And only 14%, this is going to shock you the most, only 14% is home care workers and people in senior living communities like nursing homes. Only 14%. So we're looking in the wrong areas. So why don't people who are being abused report the abuse? Because they don't. They don't. Instead, they'll sprinkle little hints, just like my mother did. And after her death, after my brother killed her, I would relive those conversations in my head, and I would pick up her sprinkles. I call them sprinkles. But a lot of times they don't want the abuser to get into trouble. They don't want them to go to jail. They fear retaliation. They fear being put in a memory care or a nursing home to the point where they just won't say anything. Maybe they're afraid they'll never see their grandchildren again. A lot of fear. A lot of fear. So what do we have to do? We have to listen, and we have to look, and we have to ask the right questions. And think about, who does this person trust? Because if you're maybe a healthcare worker, that person is probably not going to trust you enough to open up to you unless they've known you for a very long time. So try to figure out who is the person that they trust the most and get that person to maybe ask some questions. Another thing that's probably really going to surprise you is our sons are more apt to commit the financial and psychological abuse. Same in my mother's case. And our daughters are more likely to use physical abuse. Also in my mother's case. 40% of people with dementia have reliable emotional memories. They're just not going to have the details. If they're telling you that someone is hitting them, you need to take them seriously. So when we realize that 70 to 80% of the abuse is at the hands of family members, and in many, 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 many cases, it's because they are uneducated. They don't want to be in this role. It's dissatisfaction and unknowing how to best care for a person with dementia, and they just get frustrated and lose their shit. So before that happens to you, please reach out. Please reach out to my website, which is down below, and spend 4 days with me. And I can teach you everything you need to know. The stress will be almost completely eliminated. The behaviors that are driving you insane and making you walk to the edge of the cliff, we can get rid of 80 to 90% of those behaviors. Time and time again, every single student that graduates has had amazing success. They're so much happier. They feel like they have their life back. And that can be you too. But I can't do it for you. You're the one who has to take that first step. But I'm here and I want to help you. This is what I do. And I'm really, really good at it. So I hope you pick up the phone, or I hope you book a phone call on our website, answeraboutalz.org. It's super easy. You just book a call, pick a day and time, fill out the form. It'll take you literally a minute, 2 minutes, maybe 3. But it's super easy, and we're here to help. We're going to change the world. Going to change the dementia care industry. We're already flipping it upside down. I'm Debra. I hope you subscribed, and I hope I see you soon in class. Take care. You got this. Would you like to get these same results? This course comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. Join me for the next session before the class is full. To apply, go to answeraboutalz.org or give us a call at 585-775-5949 today.